In order not to be too anxious, it's important to try to be rested, to have privacy, to be very, very slow, and maybe not to go on intercourse until other things have been established to go well. So maybe just a really staged approach. Then it's important maybe for the individual who's experienced the treatment and is considering getting back to sexuality to get used to their own body and to get comfortable, look at one's own body, maybe try some self-pleasuring to see what works and what doesn't work and what's different from what it used to be. And of course, setting the scene is big, because if it's not going to be spontaneous, then it's really nice to plan it. And if it can be made romantic and mood enhancing. And that's where, again, partners can be very, very instrumental. To enhance desire. So we're talking about, loss of estrogen. We're talking about all kinds of physical changes that make desire difficult, and some of it could be also psychological. Exercise, dance, all of those kinds of things that make one aware of one's own body really makes a lot of difference. And then learning how to stimulate. And I really truly often advise for people to overcome barriers to vibrators, because they can be very fun and pleasurable and playful and silly, and it's not just a pornographic thing, it's just a device to stimulate blood flow and to create physical comfort and pleasure. If there truly is depression or couple conflict or lack of communication, it's important to get some treatment maybe to make sure that the relationship is stable. Sometimes when people are on antidepressants, they have trouble having orgasms. Sometimes their physicians recommend that when they know they're going to have sexual activity, they take a break from the antidepressant for that dose or for those 2 doses to be able to do that. So that can be sometimes helpful. If people are on medications that make them drowsy or something like that, that's just important to be kind of fully present and to minimize side effects that interfere. Okay, so just a quick one on the emotional work. There's no doubt about it that when there is any kind of a change, it includes loss. So no matter how positive we are, change in sexual functioning typically includes some sort of a loss. And there's literature on how to deal with loss and how to grieve so that one can move on towards sort of a more satisfying and new way of being. The model was developed on bereavement, but it's quite usable, I think, here, because what is it that we do when we try to cope with loss? First of all, we have to acknowledge that it happened. Second of all, we have to allow ourselves to feel the feelings that are associated with the loss. We have to get used to how we are now as compared to how we were then, but then we have to also remember that we were good at this, or that it was pleasurable, and that maybe that'll help us in the future. So this is kind of what happens. We have to come to terms, a person has to come to terms that sexuality has changed and that there are feelings about it. If people can share it in the couple, it enhances intimacy. It's important to, sometimes people would say, oh, we had such a great sex life and now we have nothing, and thinking about the past just makes me feel miserable. And I always say to them, well, remember that if you could work it out in the past, you can probably work it out now too, that you had skills emotionally and physically that created that good sex life. So now you can work on it in a new way. But it requires communication and a lot of experimentation. Using aids, planning, developing new ideas, not being afraid of trying different things. So I wanted to show you that sometimes it can be really hard to work through every individual sexual encounter because there are all these opportunities for aborting the effort. And I don't know if you can see it. Can you see this? These colors? So let me just quickly say, so a person feels like they want to have sex, all right? So this is, let's say, a man. He has desire, but he realizes, I'm not going to be able to have an erection. So this is the first opportunity to feel down and depressed and abort the activity. But let's say he works through it and says, okay, I'm going to have sex, and goes to the partner, and they agree, and they go towards stimulation and arousal. But now he's feeling, oh my God, this is taking so long. And he's feeling like, I can't even control my body. They just feel so awful. Could abort right here. But let's say he works through it and then starts focusing, but it's so hard to tune out those negative feelings about what's different. Another opportunity to feel like I can't control my emotions, I can't control my mind, I can't focus on this, and this is too hard. But if he works through it and the encounter ends in a good experience, it's going to be a incentive to do it again. So this is really hard emotional work, even in the process of the encounter. So every encounter includes some of that working through. So you have to, a person has to work through the grief to get to the pleasure. And over time, encounter after encounter, if it works, if it's slow, if it's intentional, and if it's supported mutually with the partner, it leads to greater confidence that sexuality can be good again. It'll be different. It'll be new, but it can still, or again, be good. And I would say that the psychological intimacy can grow exponentially in this process. So then, you know, the sexual response is a little bit different from what it was like before. It's not just desire, arousal, orgasm, resolution. There's a lot of more communicating. There's a lot more thinking about how to plan it. There's an acceptance that maybe there's some help that's needed. But the rest can be much the same. Now, sex therapists. It's not exactly what we do. But what we do at the Center for Sexual Health and what sex therapists do, and you have a website to local therapists if you're not from Ann Arbor, we provide a comprehensive evaluation where we take an individual and sexual history. We screen for depression and anxiety if those need to be treated. We take a medical history because we mostly see people who have some medical conditions that they're working with. And then we provide individual couple treatment. We work with medical providers, and we provide referrals to physical therapy, massage therapy, or psychiatric evaluation if necessary. Our goals are to reduce symptoms, which for most people means reducing anxiety, depression, and increasing pleasure. We do a lot of education about sexuality and what's possible. And we offer ideas for new experimental things. And so I think if people, after the experience of cancer treatment, have sexual difficulties and work on them with humor, optimism, patience, and erotic exploration, there's definitely hope for having a good sexual relationship after cancer treatment. And I'm going to leave you with this.